Hey up everybody and welcome back. Well, as you can hear, it's pouring down, so Spot and I have had to wear our waterproofs today. And today's Thursday, and it's sort of throwing us a little bit on this week's video because I rented an excavator for the week, planning to get the pond finished, because I got to a point that there was too much rock and stuff in the clay. The backhoe on my tractor was just going to blow a hydraulic line. So anyway, I thought there was nothing else for it. We'd have to bite the bullet and pay for an excavator. So Linda did. But it poured down yesterday and it's going to pour down today, so I've lost a couple of days of digging. So I'm in the garage today. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to start the engine. And if you're wondering why this one's here, there's a story. So let's get... Before we get straight to that, lots of comments. Thank you. A couple of things about ways to put the gearbox together, which may or may not have helped. I don't know, I'm thinking about it. But anyway, we'll find out when we do the second engine. And just simply lots of comments. Well, 57 I think. I hope I answered everybody. I think I did. But if not, I'm sorry. We've just got lost in the masses. Alright, so anything else? No, let's get on and I'll explain about the engine here. Now, I've been using the parts book online at Hitchcock's, and also some other information I have on disc from, I don't know if any of you know him, Kim the CD man, who's Australian. Almost all my manuals are on disc. I got them from Waldridge's here well, he's in Canada. And this fella, Kim the CD, is really good. He does a compilation on the DVD. There's service sheets, there's brochures, all sorts of things. But anyway, I have that, the stuff from Hitchcock's, and they tend to contradict each other when it comes to the main bearings. So I thought I'd ordered everything. Now, as you remember, I mentioned I'd forgotten the circlips. But I got the large washer, I got the big spacer, the middle. So what happens is, one bearing goes in, where are we? The roller bearing goes in, there's a circlip groove, then that goes on, then this one is the thickness of that spacer and the circlip, that goes on, then this bearing goes in, like so. Well, actually that goes in first. Now, where are we? Driver side spacer, you know. When I look at another diagram, there are two circlips and there's a seal inside the cases. Now, there's the cases, I don't know. There's only one circlip groove in here. And I've made measurements, and I would say from this, you put that large washer in, you put the bearing in, you put the circlip in, you put the spacers in, you put the roller bearing in. And also, I went off because it suddenly struck me that I had this little bundle of stuff that came with the bits, and as you can see, there's that big washer, there's the roller bearing, there's one spacer, there's, sorry, the ball bearing, and there's the roller bearing. Come on now. Then there's another one. So I went and looked, and sure enough there's another one of these. So I've ordered that, and I've ordered the seal and everything, but I'm still not convinced about how this all goes together. So I thought, I've got that other engine that hasn't been dismantled. And it's another 59, it's another one out of a Pashley, everything should be the same. So what we're going to do, because I've already pinched all the case bolts out of it, the through bolts for this engine, so we're just going to pull the cases apart. I don't need even to dismantle the timing side, and I'm talking away to here, but anyway, we're going to have a look, see what's in there. So let's get to that. By the way, you think I've done it again like I did with that little pillar bolt? That actually is the washer for the other side. That goes on the timing side, and this is the spacing piece that goes to the sprocket. Well now, is that nasty or what? Look at the rust in there. Can you see that? Get up to the light. That is very nasty. So, Actually, this one's got a broken mounting as well, so it's a pretty cool pair of crankcases. So there's our roller bearing. There's our inner spacer. See if I can get you to see this. Hold on a second. And here's the inner. There's our bearing. There's the circlip. This here, well, this is the outer race for that roller that's on the crankshaft. Then there's the spacer. Ow! Okay. Then there's a spacing piece. Then there's a circlip. Then there's the roller bearing. Let me move it. Right, I'll try and put a bit of extra light on without blinding it here. Yeah, I think that's alright. So there is that outer washer, the big flat one. And there, that's soft. That's the seal. And then there's the bearing. So I'm waiting on this seal to come. The interesting thing is though, that is a close fit in that, as you can see, I think. It's a tight fit in, not just in the seal, but in that actual large outer washer. Hold on again. Now there's the one I just bought, which is the right size for the bearing, but as you can see, different. So I'm still scratching my head, but we've come to a standstill again. Because as always, when you're missing one part, it's never the last piece that goes on, it's always the first. So let's look at something else. We're going to look at the clutch because I've got new cush rubbers, we can put them in. Now I've given the clutch centre clean up, just so we don't get clouted up doing it. I worked a little bit on, these weren't too badly worn, but what you get is the plates that are pressing against here, as they keep hitting, they knock little grooves in. And you want to file them off. And otherwise the tangs on the clutch plates might catch in them and they won't separate well. So here's our new rubbers. Interestingly enough, it looks as if there are two sizes, small and large. They look like new old stock maybe or something. Anyway, we've got to get these out of here. And then we've got to put the new ones in. So, selection of screwdrivers to see. You can see how rotten they are. So you just prise them out. I noticed a lot of the shots of the gearbox, I kept getting my hands in the way. It's a bit difficult otherwise. Anyway, that's how they come out. I won't bore you taking them all out, so let me get the rest out. Now you'll notice that once I got the three big ones out, this thing can move. It's actually pretty stiff, so I'm going to have to work on that. But you can see there's now a gap, so I can get the rest of these out relatively easily. Now I've pressed the centre out of this, and I'll show you how the shock absorber actually works. Now the clutch plates go on this, so this is being driven by the engine when it's engaged. This, as you can see, is splined, so that goes onto the gearbox shaft. So this is going to drive from the engine and transfer it to this to go into the gearbox shaft and then come back out to go to the rear sprocket. So when that is in there, like that, as you can see now it moves, you have these rubbers, so that's being held by the gearbox. When that suddenly starts to move, this will compress the rubbers, so it'll take up the actual initial pressure. Earlier bikes didn't have these in. They had a big spring on the end of the crankshaft with cams. The spring held the cams together, but they could ride like that, so when the sprocket suddenly took up, it could ride up the cams a little bit to take that initial jerk. Now then, how do we put these in? Different ways for different bikes. But what you'll find, of course, is that as I mentioned before, once you've got one set in, these are under compression, so the other one, the small one, isn't really going to want to go in that easily. So you need some way of sort of putting these rubbers under tension. So we'll have to come to that in a minute. So let's see what we've got here. So we've got 3 big ones. Whoops. Oh, don't tell me these are different bloody size to the ones I took out. Why is it nothing that you buy nowadays is ever the right bloody size? There's 3 new ones. There's... Look. I've got to look into this now. I've got to phone Hitchcock's and find out why when I ordered the ones for 19... Sorry about that, compressor came on. So I've got to phone Hitchcock's tomorrow morning about those crush rubbers. It's one of the awkward things about being 5 hours away. I've always got to sort of get up and phone them. So as soon as I couldn't do that, I thought, let me get the bearings out of those other cases and see what's what. So I took all the bearings out. I should have shown you one thing, because there's a little trick here. With the roller bearing, of course, the outer race stays in the cases. So how do you get that out? Well, if there's a gap behind, you can get these pullers that go in and go behind, but who's got one of them? So here's what I always do. I get a piece of alloy that's a really tight fit in that. I mean, you've got to sort of press it in or hammer it in. So when that's in, you heat the cases up and you drive it out, hitting on that. And as you see, it locks on completely. One thing is, of course, when you heat things up, this alloy will even heat up a bit and grip this more. So that'll pull it out. Alright, so what did I find? Well, I'm even more confused now. At the end of the case, first thing in was that big washer. Then there was like a cork seal, and then a smaller washer. And that's why this piece was a tight fit, see, in there. But more than that, what I found was, I started doing some measurements. The bearing that came out is exactly the same size as that. This large washer is the same size as this new one. But when I measured where the bearings go, comes down, that's where the roller bearing is. Then there's the circlip. Then it comes down, and obviously the case is like that for the shaft to go through. So the roller bearing sits in here and the washer sits in there. When I measured this, it's 646 thou. When I measured the bearing and this, that's 650 some thou. But when I looked at the other cases, this comes down, it has the circlip, but when it gets here, it has a step in it. Like that. So this slot here fitted down into there. So now I'm completely confused as to what should go in where. So I've got to talk to Hitchcock's tomorrow. So come to a standstill all around. So until I get some more news, I'm going to switch you off. Alright, it's Sunday afternoon. I've taken a break from my digging to have a cup of tea. Here's the digging. There you go, that's what I've been up to. I don't know if you can see it on the surface of the water, but it's bloody well raining again, and I'm not quite finished. I got that little bit there to do. Alright, that's enough of that. Right, I thought I'd better finish the video off, so what I'm going to do is bring you up to date. Not a lot of work this got done this week. So I spoke to Hitchcocks. First of all, the crankcases. I explained about the difference in this one, in the way the bearing goes in, and I was actually speaking to Alan Hitchcock. He'd never seen a crankcase like that. So I got the, where is it? Hold on a second. There. Alright, there's the little seals I ordered. Now, I'll need these anyway because the other two crankcases, although I'll only use one because I've only got enough stuff for. Come open, will you? There you go. There's the oil seal that goes in. So what we're going to do is put the bearing in, one washer, then the circlip, and then I'm going to fit, because actually don't I move around a lot, eh? With this not being reduced, that's 1 7/8 the OD. Where are we? The bit that goes in the middle is 1 3/8, I think, and this is 1/4 inch deep. That is a standard size for an oil seal. So we're just going to put it together with an ordinary oil seal. I did have one nasty turn. I looked up some stuff, and the layout for the parts for the 500 was different. So I rushed out, put the cases together, made sure the barrel went on, and measured the stroke of this, but it's definitely a 350. Alright, what else? Clutch cush rubbers. I'm a bit annoyed about that slightly. There are two different clutches, 3-plate and 4-plate, and the 4-plate ones are about 1/4 inch longer, 5/16, something like that. So I've got the ones for the 3-plate clutch, but both clutches I've got are the 4-plate one. And the reason I'm slightly annoyed is when I put the order in, I couldn't find the cush rubbers. So in the comments, I said, okay, I also need a set of cush rubbers. And I was also buying on that order the rebuild kit for the 4-plate clutch. So obviously they never noticed that. So I'm going to have to send off for them. Right, what else? Oh yeah, another thing I'll show you. Alloy mudguards came. And I'll tell you what, I'm really glad I listened to you fellas and didn't use the plastic ones. These are going to look gorgeous, particularly with the silver tank. But let me show you something else. The strap's a little bit in the way, but with this mudguard on, look at that. I've got about 3, maybe 4 inches of play of movement. So that's not going to work, and the reason is these nice fork yokes, the offset isn't enough. So where are we? I went down to the breakers. Do you know, he's closing down and he'd sold nearly everything. And he only had a few sets of yokes, and only one set of yokes had the top yoke. Bugger me, when I measured them, 35mm, 35mm. 7 inches apart, 7 inches apart. And the stem's the right length. So I'll paint these up. I got some more bearing races. So I'm going to have to fit those. Alright, so sorry it's all been a bit rushed this week, but there you go. And as I say, it's raining again now, so I've got to go and sit in that bloody excavator in my waterproofs. So until then, that's it for this week. So you go off and enjoy yourselves, and I'll go and do some more digging.